right. So, welcome again to this episode number 37 of the Online Business School Without All the BS. I'm your host, Shawn Tiberio, and today we are talking about why you are not entitled to shit. Plain and simple. Really, what I'm talking about is why your marketing's failing, how you can go about fixing that marketing failure problem, and more importantly, what I mean by you are not entitled to success. And that's where I think a lot of the big problems kind of handle now or kind of go into play at. Now, I am going to kind of break this into two parts because there really is this content side of things and then there's this consumer side of it. So there's the marketing content, right? And this theory around content entitlement. But then there's also the consumer entitlement, the consumer of content, and some of the things that I mean on that front when it pertains to you are not entitled to shit when it comes to consumption or consuming of content. And my bet is you guys listening out there, you fall in one of these two categories, or you have fallen in each of these categories at some point. Now, let's start here first. Let's go into what do I mean by creator entitlement, and really what it is, for lack of better words, it is when I see young real estate businesses, young small businesses. When I use the word young, what I'm talking about is startups just getting going, probably in that, under 3 years level. They start producing marketing content. They start putting things out there, whether it be on social media, whether it be in direct mail pieces, whether it be, text message, whether it be in videos, these type of things. And the creator kind of entitlement comes into, well, I did it, therefore I should see a plethora, right? And we deal with this a lot. REI Toolbox, shout out to them. We work with a ton of, hundreds of real estate experts all over the country, and I hear this all the time over there from individuals. Well, I've been doing this thing for like a month and it's not working. Right? That's the creator entitlement coming in. The fact that, well, I did it and I'm not getting anything out of it instantly. Unfortunately, folks, when it comes to creating content, comes to creating marketing, it's not Amazon Prime. That shit ain't going to show up on your doorstep in the next 2 days, right? You're not going to order up a marketing campaign and have it just flood in 2 days with opportunities in your inbox. I wish that was the case, but unfortunately, that's not what's going to happen. And this creator content really comes in because you got to understand when we're doing marketing, we're not just doing it for the likes or the shares or the love. At the end of the day, content needs to be created because we already know that our prospects, our potential sellers, buyers, if we're talking the real estate side, we already know they're looking for information. They want informative, educational type info to make a informed decision. And a single Facebook post showcasing a fancy picture isn't going to do it, right? It's not going to do it. And yes, that has a place and there's a time for it. But for the most part, we need to focus on creating content that educates and informs and moves somebody along the buyer journey. So we're not necessarily doing this for the like or the love or the share of it. Now, if you are producing content or producing marketing and that is your sole objective, right? That is the focus of it, then absolutely measure against that. But just because you do it, don't expect or don't feel entitled that, well, I put it there, therefore you, Mr. Scroller, you should hit like, you should hit love, you should comment, you should share it. Right? Just because you do something doesn't mean you are guaranteed to get the result that you ultimately want. So, when I sat down and I thought about this, right, that is the problem. So what is the solution to this the creator entitlement component of these things. And it really broke down into three phases. And the first phase that I have here, I wrote down on some notes before sitting down and shooting this episode here today. The first phase, I want to you need to look at this, and I like to call it's the learning phase, right? The first phase that we do in anything that we do from a marketing standpoint, there is a learning curve. There's a learning phase. We launch a new ad campaign, there's a learning phase. Google has to learn us, Facebook has to learn us. They got to learn what our objective is. They got to learn what our desired outcomes are. They got to learn who it is that we're targeting. We make slight adjustments, we tweak things here and there till we dial it in, because that is the learning phase. That's what it's going to take to get them to really understand what we're trying to achieve there. And in that learning phase, we're still, a lot of times when you guys are doing this yourself, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the difference between the bootstrapper and the paid, the one that's willing to pay for the shortcuts, or willing to pay for the sped up version of it. We'll talk about that here in a second, because that's the other category. But if you're the type that's doing this yourself, you're writing your own marketing messages, you're writing your own ads, you're writing your own direct mail pieces and the copy and these type of things. If this is not what your skill set is, if this is not what you do on a regular basis, then you are going to be learning a new skill. And to think that in this first phase, really, at the end of the day, could be months. It really could take months before you even get out of the first phase. You're simply learning. You're learning the new skill. You're learning how to do this. You're learning how to be consistent, how to consistently put 4, 5, 6 days worth of effort into this on a weekly basis. So 4 to 6 out of the 7 days in the week, consumption on this. And you're learning to stay consistent with that. You're learning to figure out how to do this and scale it, right? And when I look at that phase one being this kind of like learning how phase, the training phase, right? You kind of got the training wheels still on. I look at this is why so many fail, because they're not willing to put in the work. They're not willing to stick with it. They're not willing to understand that this phase, as much as the platforms that we're leveraging are learning, if we're talking digital, it's the same as to how much we are learning as we're doing this. Now, once we kind of graduate phase one of this, we go into what's called the volume phase, and that is phase two. And the volume phase, now that we've learned a little bit, right, we're still babies at this point. But in phase two, what we're learning to do now is how to do this at scale, how to volumetize, if that's even a word, all of this. So how are we, taking enough of this on a consistent basis to put it out there at scale and at volume for one singular reason? And in this phase, that volume phase, we're trying to just push as much out on a consistent basis as we can, because we need data. We need analytics. We need information feeding back to us. And too often I see young businesses, they think they're in this phase, or sometimes they do, right? They get through the learning phase or through phase one, they kind of move into this phase, and they're cranking at volume, right? Oh, Gary V says to do 100 pieces of content a day, or oh, so and so said to do it this way, so I'm doing it this way, right? And then they're like, okay, but I've got volume, so now let me start looking at the metrics. And they don't look at the metrics the right way. They simply go, well, that one didn't get anything, so therefore it doesn't work, right? They just immediately assume the tactic doesn't work, when in reality it was the components that went out. So when you start looking at data, metrics, analytics, I like to really look at, yes, I like to look at the pieces that worked. Hey, we wrote this blog article, it ranked really well, it's getting traffic. Why? Oh, we use these type of keywords, and these keywords have some really good search volume, right? And we got indexed for those exact keywords. Or maybe it's a social media post. I put that out. I wouldn't seem to get a lot of interaction. People were engaged in it. They were commenting on it. They were liking it. They were sharing it, these type of things. Why is that? Oh, I talked about this type of topic. I did a video. Well, why did that one take off, but this one didn't, right? Oh, it was this type of topic. Interesting, right? So digging into what worked is great, but where I see too many people mess up is when they look at the ones that don't. I put that Facebook post up and nobody, it was like crickets. I don't think a single person even hit the like button on it. And then you dig in and you look at the analytics around it and you look at the details as far as, how many impressions did it have, that kind of stuff. And it's like, okay, it got out there in front of people. So it was seen, but nobody did do anything with it. Why? What did we talk about on that one? What did we discuss? Was there too strong of a call to action? Was there no call to action? Right. And again, understanding the outlet that we're using, social media, maybe we missed the mark there because it didn't stop the scroll. People are so used to just, scrolling, 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 and they see it. Oh, that's interesting. They just keep going, right? And they're not interacting with it because we missed that mark. Same thing when it comes to videos or blogs or direct mail. Right? I can't tell you how many times I've heard this. Well, I launched a direct mail piece, Shawn, and I got nothing. I sent out 200 pieces of mail to 200 people one time, and nobody picked up the phone at all. So no, direct mail doesn't work. Right, entitled. You think you're entitled to a phone call because you sent one letter to somebody. But did you look at why maybe that didn't work? Did you look at what you wrote in there? Did you look at how it was presented? How many, undeliverables, return to senders did you get out of that, right? How good was the data that you got? Are you sure it was the right audience? Right? There's so many factors that go into it that in phase two, yes, we're focused on volume out, but really we're focused on volume out to get more volume of data in. The more I can put out, the more data I can bring in. And the more data I can bring in and decipher the data objectively and look at it, from a particular angle or angles, the more I can make adjustments off of. And that is really the point of phase two. That's how we fix this entitlement issue. Now, the third and final phase, this is when we really start to focus on quality. This is when the quality of the stuff, we start fine tuning our call to actions. Maybe we get a little bit better with our video production. We get better audio, right? When I started my very first podcast, I didn't have a studio that looked like this. I didn't have a back set that didn't have like this. That vibe board that's behind me, if you guys are watching this on video. And if you're not, and you're just listening on the audio side and you want to see this in video, you can head over to the Shawn Tiberio YouTube channel at ShawnTiberio.tv and you can pick it up on video there too. But that vibe board that you guys see behind me on the video, it just has a static image on it right now. But that thing, that's my baby back there. Well, I didn't have that from day one, right? I wasn't able to do video production and draw on things and all this kind of stuff from day one. But as I got to phase three, all right, I got through my learning phase. I learned how to do this. I learned how to do it consistently. I learned how to make sure I'm putting out right content, informative content, content that I know my audience wants, that needs to hear, that's excited to get, that kind of stuff. And I put enough volume out and I analyzed analytics. And I still, to this day, look at this stuff before producing other pieces of content. Then I started to focus on the quality of it. Okay, we're fine. I know kind of the things that you guys want, that you love. Now let's start focusing on getting better quality of that. Maybe it's better quality audio. Maybe it's better quality imagery. Maybe it's better video edits afterwards, right? Maybe we do the flashy stuff with the captions and all that kind of stuff. Too often, we're focused on quality way before we even get to understanding what it is that we need to even do. What kind of marketing does my audience want to hear? What is, how do I even do it consistently? Those type of things. We're so worried about, well, I don't have X or I don't know how to do Y, therefore I'm not going to do it, right? Or that's why my stuff doesn't work because I don't have those things. And in reality, that's just it's the icing on the cake, man. That vibe board back there, it's not needed. 100%. Could I, do the things that I do with our clients without it? Sure, I did it for years. Is it a luxury to have that? Does it take things to another level? Absolutely, right? Which is exactly why I got it. But that doesn't mean I need to have it to be able to get to that. And I hear that way too much. Like, when I can do that, then I'll do this. That's the entitlement, right? That's the I will do it when I get this. And the real answer is when you do this, you will get that. That's the way that you need to look at it. So, shifting up here, and let's talk about the second bucket, consumer entitlement. And consumer entitlement, when I look at that, maybe you're not the type that's necessarily producing a lot, but you're the person that is consuming a lot. Because if you're not producing content, I promise you, you are consuming it. It is around you all the time. It is all over social media. It is everywhere. So if you're not producing, most likely you are consuming. And even us producers of content, us content creators at very high levels, and myself with multiple different podcasts and all the videos that we do and web trainings and all the stuff, right? Even us, we still at this point, I still consume. Difference is I don't just consume. I consume, I learn, I invest, and then I go produce. I produce business, I produce results, I produce content. I go through those three phases that we just talked about. But the consumer entitlement really hits when I start to look at the bootstrapper consumer. Now, that's not to say that you guys out there that are willing to invest in your business, invest in your education, don't suffer from this same entitlement at times. But for some reason, the bootstrapper is the one that I see this happening way too often, feeling like you are just entitled to everything because you're bootstrapping it, because I don't have a budget, because my budget's small, blah, blah, blah. Right. And that bootstrapper, you seem to be looking for free stuff everywhere. And I get it. Right. I was there one time and I started my very first business back in 2011. I think I had like 150 bucks in my bank account. Like it was not much money to get going. And I had to figure this out, right? I had to bootstrap it. So I'm not saying that we don't all start there at some point. The difference is bootstrappers that consume and do not give. I'm going to repeat that. There's a difference between being the consumer of content and only consuming and never giving. And before anybody starts going and saying, well, Shawn, I don't even have the money. I can't afford it. That's why I'm bootstrapping this. Financial giving, right? Paying for product doesn't always have to be the outlet. Doesn't have to be the way that you give back to that creator of things. I I get it. Bootstrapping is necessary at times. The problem with only bootstrapping for the free information, consuming all the free stuff that you can get your hands on from everybody producing free information in your niche. The problem with that is you never pick something because my take might be different than somebody else's take on a particular angle. And not that one's right or one's wrong. If what I'm saying works for me and works for the people I work with, but the other person's saying something different and that's what's working for them, then great. It's working, right? It's not a battle of what's right and what's wrong. The difference is when we're trapped in this bootstrap mentality of just consume, 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 free info, free info, free info, we get paralyzed because well, Shawn said this and so said that, and I don't understand how these two come together. And then you get frustrated because well, they should tell me how to do all of this stuff. When in reality, the how is their product. The how is the service. The how is the investment. And we feel entitled as that consumer that you should just tell me because I can't afford it, Shawn. I can't afford to pay those things. And I'm not talking about paying thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, right? I get it. When I first launched and I, 150 bucks, 200 bucks in the bank account, I'm not saying I didn't consume free information. The difference was though, when I stumbled on something. Let's say I was struggling at the time with converting sales, right? I couldn't figure out how to have these discussions with motivated sellers and talk to them intelligently. And I stumbled on, somebody selling their ebook with, whatever the seven best opening phrases to handle motivated seller calls. And they were selling it for like $47, let's say. $47 to figure out how I could fix something that I'm struggling with. I can't, I never been able to justify in my head why people go, I can't afford that. It's $47. It's $7. It's $90, right? I'm not saying thousands and thousands. I'm not asking you to, to reciprocate by investing tens of thousands of dollars if the budget doesn't allow for that. That doesn't make sense. Don't go so drastically in debt at the early onset if for some things. But we need to take a hard look at ourselves. If we're trying to run a business, we're trying to bootstrap a business off the ground. At some point, we're going to have to invest into it. And if $47 is keeping you from investing, now we run a program, Investor Harvest, where we work with real estate experts that are consistently doing 3 to 5 to 8 deals on a consistent basis, and they're looking to scale. They want to be able to take their 10-year goals and achieve them in two. And we look for those businesses that have got consistency happening so that we can take them to the next level. But I can't tell you how many of those that we run into that are consistently doing 3, 4, 5 deals. They want to scale and they go, oh, I'm not paying that I think it's $197 a month is our membership fee for that. No, I'm not paying that. I can't do that. But you want to scale, right? You want to scale, but you don't want to invest. You're just looking for the free the freemium, we'll call it, right? And I have to ask this question, right? If you want to be a true business owner, free information alone cannot get you there. And I'm curious what you think of that. Like, can free information get you there? And there's probably the 1% out there that are able to pick up enough free. I know my problem was when I was in this spot, I couldn't just take all this free info and decipher it for myself, right? I needed somebody to help guide me early on through, okay, that makes sense, but how do I implement it in my business? Like I get it. I understand the concept, but I'm confused on how to execute that in my business. And if it wasn't for some of that one-on-one mentorship, it wasn't for some of that, more hand or detailed education, was I going to get the pieces that I needed? And free information wasn't going to get me there. So this consumer entitlement one is becoming more and more interesting, especially as time goes on. Um, I think because of how powerful the internet is, how powerful stuff like this, podcasts, YouTube videos, courses, even courses though, we're seeing less and less people willing to pay for them because they think that they should just be free because they think they're entitled to getting that free information because, well, inflation, the economy, all those kind of things. I can't tell you how many times on sales calls, breakthrough calls that I'm having with our potential clients and prospects over at REI Toolbox. I can't tell you how many times somebody uh, takes a $147 a month foundation program of ours and goes, "Well, do you have a discount? Because I'm just getting started." No, that is the program for those of you just getting started. Like $147 a month. Again, this show's about no BS, no fluff, which is why I'll say if you can't freaking afford 97, 147, $197 a month, if you as a business can't afford somewhere in the vicinity of like $800 to $1,000 a month in reoccurring charges for things for your business to get going, you know, even at $1,000 a month, we're talking $12,000 a year. If your business can't survive and you can't run at least at that level, I'm going to be honest with you folks, you probably shouldn't be in business. Like there's no entitlement there. That's just, you shouldn't be doing this if that's where you're at. Now, I don't want to get too far, down that trail because the consumer entitlement Um, I obviously can rant for a while on that, but here's where it affects the creator entitlement. And sometimes we find ourselves, I found myself, I'll be honest with you guys, I found myself in that creator entitlement because of the consumer entitlement a number of times. I've thrown my hands up, handful of times over the last 10, 11, 12 years of being in business and going, that's it. I'm not doing that anymore. Nobody wants to pay for it. Nobody wants the next level. Nobody wants this. Nobody wants to um, invest in themselves. Nobody wants to get better. Nobody wants to implement. That's my biggest one. I can't tell you how many times I've stopped producing content or stopped, putting content out in a certain topic field because no matter how many times I did content around it, nobody took action on it. Not even to invest in it. Just nobody took it and actually implemented it to get success. And it's like, well, why am I going to waste my time doing that? So if you are that consumer of content, and I'm really speaking to you, the one that has a small budget, right? Or no budget at all. There are things that you can actually do instead of acting entitled that you can actually do to help the creators want to create more. And that is by reciprocating in other ways, sharing their info, giving them a like, a love, if it's on social, right? Commenting, sending them a message, showing them how you took that information and implemented it and got a result from it. I can't tell you how many times that has fired me up, right? Just as fast as seeing people not utilize the content, do anything with it and implement, makes me want to quit, makes me want to stop, makes me not want to produce. I'll jump in front of this microphone, the camera, sit down and do a 15 module course just as fast when I see people say, hey, I took something that you talked about and I went and implemented it and it worked. And I got X, Y, Z result. Or I took what you said and I did this little tweak to it and this is what happened. And that'll fire me up like crazy. And I guarantee you, I can speak for the majority of content creators out there. It fires us up. Why? Because you did something. You took action. You didn't feel entitled. You didn't think that we should just give, give, give. You actually gave some back. And that's what I want to leave you with as we get ready to wrap up this episode here. If you are a creator, and everybody should be as a business owner, you should be creating content and you should also be consuming. So I don't care what bucket you fall in, the majority of the time, be a giver. Be a giver in your creation. Give information, give value, give knowledge, give education, right? Give information that's viable. And as a consumer, give back to them, show them some respect, show them that you're listening, that you heard it, and that you're putting use to it. If we could start being givers, content givers, not content entitlers, I promise you, your business will be going to a whole nother level. So, with that being said, I want to thank you guys for tuning in today. Look forward to seeing you guys on some future episodes. If you haven't given us a review, a like, or shared this with somebody, please do so. And here's to your success. We'll see you guys later.